Hello, welcome to Smileys. Tonight we're doing our part 2 of our discussion of Forge of Darkness, Book 1 of Arcana Trilogy. As you may note, this discussion is going to be spoilers all. That includes both Arcana's books, which I know kind of defeats the purpose, but we'll get to that. I'm joined by Mora. Hello, Mora.
Hey Lee, how are you?
I'm pretty good still. How about you?
I'm a little tired because we just finished summarizing both the chapters. But let's continue.
Sure. So, what have you thought? What did you think of the books thus far?
It's I can see why we chose to reread this book specifically at this pace, because honestly, every line is like dripping with. It's so I don't know how to call it. There are no fillers. There's absolutely no fillers. Like I'm just enjoying it. I'm just enjoying reading each line slowly, repeatedly, then making the summary, and then coming prepared. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. It's such a weird thing, but it is fun. So how about you?
So I read Forge of Darkness, the first few chapters, and I went, holy shit. And then I reread them for the summary, and then I reread them again at my leisure. So I've read these first 2 chapters 3 times. So if that's any indication to how I feel about the book. God damn. I mean, I know Fall of Light's going to get more philosophical and more deep and shit, but holy God.
Yeah.
So. No.
Yeah.
I have one thing to say before we get into deeper things, which I didn't comment on in the non-spoiler discussion because I didn't want to spoil anything, but when I first read Forge of Darkness, and I think the same is true of basically anyone that touched the book, when I saw the title, I thought the Forge of Darkness was going to be about Ragnar.
Is it?
And it isn't.
Oh, I did not. Oh, I didn't think that much. No.
It says on the blurb, at the very end, here begins an epic tale of bitter family feuds, of jealousies and betrayals, of wild magic and unfettered power, and the forging of a sword. And I'm like, oh, that's what he means. And then he didn't. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Because Forge of Darkness, Fall of Light, I just thought here is where we see the Andy. I mean, that's what ultimately happened. So I don't know how much of it is me retconning it, but I did not think of Dragnipur. And I never read these things. I never read the back of the book. I don't read maps. I don't read the dramatis. It's, you just start off. So, there will be peace, right?
There will be peace.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned this in the episode that considering that this is Draconis, whether it's a threat or a promise, you're leaning towards
it could be both,
it being a threat,
right? It could be both. It could be a threat of a promise of violence and a threat of violence at the same time, right?
Or it could be Galan just making up something. Maybe the real words just say, "I was here," or
I shagged Mordor, signed Draconis. Maybe.
So, yeah. So just Galan coming up with there will be peace, right? If he's real, please. I can't believe that you're not bringing it up every time Galan name comes up. No.
I'm not going to because either we're going to bring it up more in the future, or we're not going to bring it up at all because Galan does appear quite a bit. Well, his name appears quite a bit in both Arcana's books. So I think it's a bit of a moot point to say, oh yeah, well, especially when Steve said it's not what he thought. So I think it's a bit pointless to bring up.
So,
but if it is adequate, I might bring it up for other characters. Possibly.
P&D.
Yeah. and Renard.
I don't think I've like said their names in forever. I just call them P and D.
Yeah.
It's too hard to remember. Okay, so when we begin, how is the society, the Thais, sorry, how is the Thai society doing? Is it wartime?
Awful.
Is it peacetime?
So,
And
funny that you bring this up, because I give it a bit of thought, and I guess officially the realm of Kurald Galen is a monarchy ruled by the Taist, once known as something, now going by the name Mother Dark. In effect, it has become a theocracy, right? Mother Dark is as much, if not more, a religious figure as much as a political one. And the ruling class, the high ruling class, are people like Andasalan, who's an acolyte, admittedly, or Sintara, who is a high priestess, or Emerald Lanier, who is also a high priestess, or Cedarpool, or priests, clergy. And then we have like the Sheikh monasteries, which are also religious in nature, and so on and so forth. And so, for all their assertions otherwise, Kurald Galen is a very polarized religiously realm, and it's a very religiously intolerant one, say the Deniers. Which, for one, they're called the Deniers, which is a fucking incredibly pretentious term, almost as pretentious as Dog Runner.
how is it pretentious? What do you mean?
Because they deny the power of Mother Dark and instead embrace the old faith. And so they're
So
Deniers.
why should they be defined by by a negative definition? They're just being who they are. These are the people who have changed. Yeah. I mean, it's
That's
just
why
biased.
it's pretentious to call them Deniers.
It's biased. It's right.
Like before Mother Dark came along, every Thais was a Denier. I'm not kidding.
No, but the term denier, it's like these are the guys who have accepted her, right? So it's whatever, yeah.
And so, yeah, it among being a theocracy, it also has a very clear class divide. You have holds, greater houses, lesser houses, the plebs. We need to look no further than what Sagander says in chapter 1, right? About how the Thais feel about all of this.
Yeah.
About natural justice and how it is superior to that of the Forwarned. At least the Forwarned had something to believe in and die in. At least, if they had one thing going for them, they had actual conviction and actual ideals. Horrible ideals, yes, but they had principles, which is not something you can say about many Thais.
Yeah.
Obviously, the theme of civilization is going to be brought up like a lot. So, do you want to talk about that?
About civilization?
And how we are introduced to Thai civilization in this particular book.
Yeah, I mean, underneath all the things which we are talking about, can I just say that most of it went over my head when I read it the first time?
Oh yeah.
That this whole thing is built upon an imminent civil war, and I did not notice it. It's like from page 1, everything is being set up for a war, and I don't know. I think till things really heated up, I seriously did not notice that. Oh, this is what is happening. I mean, even here, the whole shall I approach her thing by Rake. It's so obvious. It's so, the defining feature of the Thais right now is its pre-war preparations, isn't it? That went over my head, and I feel really dumb now because it's like every other line is still preparing for war, and about civilization. Yeah, as you say, I think even which we've seen quite a bit. This is the civilization which is in the decay phase right now because they are sort of running out of resources, and we've not even come to the threat of the the sea of Witr at the next level. That is a different thing. But right now, even within their resources, they're sort of running out. They're going on. So many beasts are already being extinct, and the woods are being chopped down. And I don't think overpopulation has been mentioned yet, but it's the other. I don't know, the downfall of civilization is where we are seeing them right now. And on top
Mm-hmm.
of all their man-made or Christ-made
Mm-hmm.
civil wars and all those other. As you say. I think the best word to describe the Thai society right now is awful. Yeah, I don't think we can say more than that.
I kind of wanted to thought because I wanted to mention something as you mentioned the Civil War. For starters, the Civil War is basically propagated on the fact that Draconis took the hand of Mother Dark in marriage.
Not in marriage. Not in marriage.
Not even in marriage. That's the thing.
If it
not
was
even
marriage, that
marriage.
would have been a yeah. If it was marriage, that would have been a different thing. It's not marriage, but I don't know. I'll have to agree with Nif that Draconis is being a giga chad here because it's seriously. It's just,
And yeah.
yeah, go on.
No, you brought up the Vader and stuff, and one of our friends keeps bringing up, like the threat of the Elaint and the Vader and Azathonites. And one thing that always stood out to me in Carcanas, even when I was first reading, is all of this, the Vader, the Elaint, the chaos in their blood or whatever, feels like a scapegoat. It feels like a way out. It feels like a way for the Thais to absolve themselves of the responsibility of their own downfall. And if there's one motherfucker that's not going to let that happen, it's Galan, right? Galan is going to bully them with it like, no, all of this is your fault because you didn't listen, because you are idiots, because you are self-serving pricks.
Okay.
Which is why I have faith in Steven Henriksen not to, pull any punches when Walk in Shadow comes out. But even here, Draconis is building a small army. The Highborn are rallying against them. Ral is rallying against them. And no one is asking the people who are actually involved in this. Nobody cares what Mother Dark thinks. Nobody cares what Lysander thinks. They're doing things in their name for their own reasons while professing that they're doing it for the good of the realm. It's not hypocrisy, it's stupidity.
And I think the whole book, we see so little of Mother Dark. It is like that, right? Her voice is the least heard in this whole thing. Even Lysander, we sort of have an idea of where he stands with the whole thing. I mean, for the sake of the realm, he is fine with a political marriage, and all that is set up. But Mother Dark, we really don't know. No, Lysander is not fine with it. Isn't that? Wouldn't he agree to marry
They talk
her?
about this way later, but he brings it up quite a few times. Like, did anyone ask me if I want her hand in marriage? No.
Yeah, nobody asked him, but if it is to be done, he would do it, isn't it?
Later, yes, in Fall of Light, yes, because we'll get to that eventually. But as it stands right now, what Lysander wants is redress for his soldiers, because we get glimpses of this, of the Legion.
Yeah, that is not very clearly a setup. That what exactly are these soldiers asking for? They're like,
well, what Lysander would name justice, but what others would name
justice,
restitution and redress and stuff. And the original request was essentially to be recognized and maybe have like land rights or pensions or something that doesn't disarm them and throw them to the streets for whomever. I'm going to turn red again. God damn it. Sorry.
it's fine. It adds to the scene.
Yeah. But and this is one of the reasons why I actually quite enjoy Lysander and why I give him a bit of a pass. He's not wrong in what he says, because the Legion what became Ysander's Legion is essentially a legion born of lowborn, right? It's comprised of lowborn individuals that make up the regulars, while the Hust are the knights, they are the nobles, they are the elites. And by definition, because of their noble blood, they get extra benefits. Now, the contrast to this is that the Hust also are valiant soldiers. They are defenders of Geralt Gallain, and they are doing what they're doing because the realm is going to fall, not because they care one whit about what Andorist or whatever Heshtul are going to do tomorrow. The realm was in danger, in genuine danger. But only one group of individuals got actual redress and actual rights. And along comes Hunral, who is a noble and a drunk and a dipshit, to piggyback off Ysander's success and then build up Ysander's success in order to further his own goals. And if that isn't political commentary, I don't know what is.
Do you think Hunral actually took a knife in an assassination attempt, or
yeah?
Is it brought up again?
I think Graal believes that Ysander is his ticket to greatness, and I think he believes in Ysander's cause.
Okay.
I don't think he's being disingenuous. I think he is being genuine. I think he's just using him to further his own goals until he's no longer useful. At which point,
yeah, who knows?
Fall of Light happens.
God. Yeah. So it's basically a society which is in flux right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are not starting at peace and slowly building up to a war. We are not starting in wartime and winding down to peacetime. It's not like that. It's a very uneasy time, isn't it? There is peace, but not really. And how many wars have these guys been fighting? There is the Forulkan, which has been brought up.
At least 3.
Then the Jalarkan. What's your third one?
No, it's these 2, and then I think... Crap.
Okay, if you remember, we'll put an overlay here somewhere. Okay.
But it's these 2, the Forulkan and the Jalarkan one, at least, and a few others probably.
Yeah, and it's been going on for quite a while, isn't it? All these wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always very odd to me because these guys, comprising of the low bonds, so Draconis is sort of in between. He's neither accepted by them, he's neither nor accepted by the nobles. So he's an outsider to both sides of the faction.
Okay.
Isn't that how
I should note that he may profess that he is, right? And he is. But he is also part of a greater house. He has immense resources at his disposal. He has a small army at his disposal. It doesn't compare, I think.
But why do people oppose his, his fling with Mother Dark? Why do people oppose it? The noble bonds and all that.
There is this notion of balance of power, and Draconis shattered that, both in this, in the mundane terms and the magical terms. We'll get to that later. The book deals with this a lot, and that Draconis is seeking to...
people are opposing him.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is Draconis essentially shattered a balance that existed in Geralt Gallain for years, of no one house amassing too much power, no one house's lord amassing too much power. There's this untold gentleman's agreement, so to speak. Draconis, for one, is raising a small army. For two, he is an adopted son of House Dragons, which, again, incidentally bears his name, but, he is consort to Mother Dark, and he basically did this behind the back of everyone else without bothering with diplomacy, because he loves Mother Dark. And he doesn't have time for this shit. But also, a big part of why Forge of Darkness actually happens is because Draconis empowered Mother Dark to begin her journey to begin with, and then Triss comes along and fucks everything up, because Draconis shattered the balance there as well. So this book's events take place because Draconis trashed a balance that was pre-existing. In short, Draconis broke the status quo and is being persecuted for it. So there is a way of, how dare he? Why would he do this? Because, so many people are going to die, but also, should he kneel before tradition? Is tradition an altar upon which blood is to be shed in perpetuity ad infinitum because people are too scared to tackle it or bother with it? We saw hostages, we saw the deniers, we saw dog runners, we saw prejudice against the border swords. Are all of these things good and sacred because they were like that since our forefathers' time and we should keep them because of it? No. And okay, yeah, Draconis is Asathani, but we see this theme through Gasphala as well, right? So
there's also this idea that all the marriages we see so far, they're all arranged marriages, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And how exactly does this happen? How exactly did people start deciding that Urisander is going to marry Mother Dark? It's just, Hunral spread a few rumors and then everyone decides that these two are getting married. Isn't that how? Is that how it happens? Yeah.
Pretty much.
What? Yeah. And about all these Anderist and Inestia and all those, these are just arranged by random people. And so much of the conflict should be resolved if, people just chose who they marry. We wouldn't have this novel at all, yeah. But that's very interesting because I don't know. For me personally, because arranged marriages and all are such a huge thing here. So it's fun to read, politically arranged marriages and people not being, and this comes up, right? We see Spinach next week and all that. So again and again, we see arranged marriages coming in the way of people trying to find their partners. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is obviously for political gain, right? But even
what?
then,
Sorry?
it's obviously for political gain. Yeah, it's because, it's politics. We need to unite these two houses. We need to have an alliance. What better way to seal an alliance to but an arranged marriage? Cool, neat. But as we mentioned with Krill and the notion of hostageship, and this with arranged marriages, and the aforementioned prejudice against other things, and the relentless extinction of and hunting of beasts and lumber and the natural resources of Kurald Gallien, these are not necessarily good things that should be upheld in perpetuity. But no one seems to be willing to challenge the status quo. And there's also very few characters that actively take note of the status quo. One of them is obviously Draconis, because he's Azathonai, so he steps kind of outside everything. The other is obviously Galan, who is highlighting the status quo and then trying to, poke holes in it. And then who? B&D? Renar?
I'll just take your word for it. I don't know.
Anomander and Kaladin when they fuck off to the wilds.
Oh, there is still that line waiting. Yeah.
Who else is there acknowledges how fucked the entire situation is?
Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about people's ages here? How old is everyone? Sure. I don't know. Is 19 really 19?
Yeah.
So that means Celestia is 19.
Yeah.
And how old do you think Anderist is? And how old does it make Anomander? And how old does it make Hish? It makes no sense to me. Either they're all marrying with huge age gaps, or I don't know. 19 is not R19. I don't know. No?
I mean, I don't think there's a huge age gap between Anderist and Anestia.
Okay, start calculating.
We're not given an age for Anderist.
No, I don't know. Would you think 5 years is a good age gap? Anderist must be in mid-20s or so. And Anomander could not be more than 10 years older than him. Right? Is that all? Is that all their ages are? But it seems like they've been around, they've been fighting wars for so long and all that. It doesn't track. If you ask me. No?
I'll agree with
I
you. I
mean,
don't know. We're
we
not
don't
given
know.
ages on purpose, so we don't know. Maybe.
We are given a few ages. Arathan is 17 years. Who cares? It makes no sense when you don't know the ages of anyone else.
Yeah, and the founder of House Dracon's like 500 plus, and then died inexplicably 10 years ago.
Suddenly, she died suddenly
Randomly.
10 years back.
Yeah, but yeah, you can see like there's, despite being in medias res, there's these subtle hints about the past and how things have changed, and basically like 2 chapters in, nothing tracks with the Book of the Fallen. Absolutely nothing.
I
Nothing.
know, zero. Isn't it? Okay, yeah, there's only one thing. Karadin, Brood, and Rake have known each other for a long time. Yeah, that's confirmed. They know each other for a long time. And Kadaspala is a painter. He's still a painter here. He's not doing something else.
Yeah, Daspala's story is, I think, is the only one that's like meant to mesh, because
Okay.
that punctuates a tragedy of what happens to him. So he is written purposefully so that he is a tragic character, because we kind of know what happens in the Book of the Fallen, right? He mumbles a lot. He claims that like Rake did something to his sister, and then he'll kill him for it, and then he'll paint a god to do it, and then he does, and etc. So if that story diverges from Kadaspala's fate in Pull the Hounds, it's a bit like wasted potential. So I think it's the one story where it's kind of meant to mesh, because it's already tragic enough to work. So, but Rake, Galan's not gonna give him like a good backstory. You know, say, oh yeah, he's a great guy, great individual. No, he's there.
He's an ass throughout. He's just a hot-headed.
I wouldn't say he's an ass. I wouldn't say he's an ass. He's definitely capable. He's smart. He's
No, I'm not calling him dumb. I'm calling him, hot-headed.
Well, I mean, the Bard of Carlton definitely was hot-headed. The rest of it wasn't. So far, at least, the first chapter where he appears, he was decently composed.
Was he asking for blood vow and, demanding it? I will have his vow and all that.
You were the one that said it was tactical, not me.
It was tactical, but he's still, he has so much attitude pouring out of him. It's amazing, because in Book of the Fallen, he's this measured, calm, quiet leader of everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And here is this young, angry guy who's...
He's angst incarnate.
Oh, God. Maybe. Right. Oh, but Silcus stood out to me so much. Silcus, I don't know, I just like him so much more here. No? He's such a fun type of guy. So.
Silgas gets a lot more depth here, which is interesting, because in the Book of the Fallen, there's a lot of myths surrounding Silgas, and basically none of them track. He gets a very shit rep. He gets
we were wondering why he's called the winged grief and all. We don't know.
Too. Yeah. But in the Book of the Fallen, especially, he gets like a lot of like bad rap. He's like draconic. He thinks in millennia, not like minutes. He doesn't care. He's like going to murder anybody. And he's just like, okay, I'm going to go through the mountains. I'm going to confront this guy, and then I'm going to tell his god to fuck off. And if he doesn't, I'm going to go apeshit. Here, he is very much trying to mediate, right? Because Anamander is trying to keep the three of them together because civil war is coming, right? But due to the effect of what happens later, Triss shows up, Anamander gets turned black. He's the first of them all to get, become Andy. Silcus doesn't. Throughout the books, through Carcanas, he doesn't. Ever. And when Centaura gets sanctified, right, and then becomes Alabaster White, there is this sort of tension which Nif underlined, right, of he is white as fuck, albinism or otherwise, And not even the gift of Mother Dark can change that. And there is a line full of light that Anomander doesn't trust Silkas, which here isn't the case. Okay, like here, they're very close, very, beloved brothers. They fought together. But later, as the story progresses, Silkas has to play mediator between Anomander and Andarist, and then Draconis and everyone else. Silkas is thrust into a very shit situation as one of his brothers are grieving, and the other is off with his boyfriend trying to seek vengeance for said brother who's grieving.
Yeah.
So he gets a lot more depth, but he's also in a very crap situation, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
So Silkas is another character I want to look after.
Yeah.
Especially when Quizen comes around. Dragonis, I prevail. Quizen Farrell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many theories to go through, isn't it? As we keep reading, this hardly the. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up. Do you want to talk about Arathan? Arathan? I think
How
it's
are you
Arathan,
saying
right?
it? Arathan.
Yeah,
I don't know.
pronounce the first syllable. Yeah, so
We can
I'm
just
guessing
say
it's that.
No.
Yes.
It can't. I don't know. It can't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter because there is so much history about the Falari and all that. To me, stopped making sense. So I don't know. It's Arathan now. Arathan, son of Draconis, unacknowledged so far.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't much about him here other than his, this sense of huge untapped powers and fearlessness and all that. And quite smart. He can talk back to Sagander without actually offending the guy. He does a nice
he
job of
definitely
handling
offends
people
him.
around him. No,
He
not
definitely offends him,
outwardly.
but not
See,
outright. He's not being confrontational. He's just too competent for Sagander's liking because Sagander wants to mold him, right? But Arathan's thinking. He's doubting.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to see these two, and there's more of that coming. I think.
Yeah. Especially when
right, and when that happens, yeah.
Well, a lot of things happen to Arathan. Yeah. Especially his destination, which is who?
Mm-hmm.
Where is where's that?
The Lord of Hate. Did you know who was the Lord of Hate when you read Forge of Darkness?
Yeah.
You knew? Oh, because I did not read novels. Yeah, it is, but I did not read Blood and Bone before Forge of Darkness.
So I knew who it was.
I didn't know. And that reveal was a huge thing for me. I was like, oh my God, is this him? Because I think the next chapter 3, I think, deals a lot more about Lord of Hate. Shall we just keep the reveal for that one? Yeah?
Sure, yeah. I mean, anyone who's read this probably knows who we're talking about, but in case you don't, we'll keep you in the dark for longer.
And do you have anything more to add about Arathan?
His name, actually. So he brings up himself, right? That Draconis named his 3 sisters Envy, Spite, and Malice, and names shouldn't be curses. And so I don't have any theories, which is funny because it's me, but I don't have any theories about who Draconis' mistress with whom he sired Arathan is. It's probably an Azathanai. Probably. So Arathan's name means walk on water.
But he did.
And
he fell through it.
Yeah. And then he got Azathanai powers, right? That's when his powers manifested and bloomed, and then Envy and Spite tried to do the same with Malice. Yeah. It's a whole plot line.
Oh,
and then Envy and Spite try and kill Malice to get the same thing to happen.
Oh shit! Oh, those are disgusting things to read.
It's great. Yeah, it's quite something. And then Draconis and Olar Ethel have a scene together where Draconis tells Olar the name of Valentin's mother, and she starts laughing. And I have no fucking idea who that is.
Yeah.
It's Steve taunting us in the face, like, I know, but I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, none of Arathan's siblings share any Teist features, which is interesting because if Draconis was indeed a Teist, he supposedly sired envy and spite, at least, with Sheldatha Lore, who is a teenager in this book, so that's going to be extra weird. But clearly not.
The whole,
Add that to the things that just don't track.
Yeah.
There's probably a few other things I could talk about, but I don't want to get too deep into Eurosander right now because I don't remember enough, and I'll spend literally all of Light talking about it. So, not spell you the deets right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Sulcas, Eurosander, Renar.
Isn't Renar
probably
quite a way away before she steps on page?
Yeah, and she doesn't even become relevant to Folk Light, but
Yeah.
Sulcas, Eurosander, Renar, and P&D, obviously, and I don't know, Arathan, maybe, I guess, are going to be characters I pay extra attention to this read.
Okay. I think you
And
should
Korea.
just tell
I didn't mention Korea. I forgot Korea.
who you're not going to pay attention to.
Anamander. I do not care. I'm sorry.
Fine.
It's not. I don't care. Okay, I'm gonna explain my thought process here. I elected on this read to focus much more on the literary aspects of Carcanos rather than it functioning as a Malazan book, right? So what it means for the lore and what it means for the world. No, I just want to read Carcanos for Carcanos. I want to see the poetic voice underneath it. I want to see why these characters act the way they do and how Galan tackles them and what they think and what they do and why. Because I did not do any of that in my first read, so I just don't know. You ask me why, Hanako, why Lasarug went over to Hood's camp. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't remember.
No, that's a good point because at least for me, because we are reading this so slowly, it's like it completely stands alone. I'm not really trying to think what happens in Book of the Fallen or that rake is someone else. This rake is completely someone else, and
I mean, the events are completely different too, right? They don't even track the same way. So
yeah, no, it is meant to be read like that. It is meant to be read as a standalone, isn't it? Even though it's a prequel and all that. I don't know. That's the way I see it because so it is so deliberately not correlating with anything we know.
It spits in your face for trying to get it to mesh. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point of calling it a prequel? It's not. It's just a different series. There's a couple of quotes. Can I share? Which I really liked. There is one where Silcus says that from the rain when they go back to their house,
they emerge like children of chaos.
Yeah. So these are all hints, I think, with Nif's theory that they already carry the blood of Elaine.
I don't think it's not.
It's not a theory. I've accepted it. I think they're all.
It kind of hinges on whether or not Krull is lying, but we'll get to that when we get there.
Yeah, but right. Do you have any? No.
All of Kataspala's dialogue with Yosemite, especially the bit about laws being oppression, that. As I said, if you excuse the fact that Kataspala is incestuous and borderline psychopathic, he's extremely interesting to read about because he's an artist. Right? He's not a politician. He's not someone who's interested in this kind of thing. But his lens of poetry, through which he views not poetry, art in general, through which he views the world is wow. It emanates from Steve because Steve is like this kind of individual. But I don't know. It gets brought up later with Karaspala and how he views like love and how he views the world through painting and why like. But here, he's the most progressive Teist we've ever seen, and that says a lot because it's Karaspala.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I think Ro pointed out a really nice way that Urusandal was described in the initial scene. He's one side bathed in candlelight.
Oh yeah, and the other being in darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty good. It's something I wouldn't have noticed unless he had pointed out, and unless we were reading this slowly.
And the other one, which was the Raskin quote, which you pointed out about, who among all of these fools has the honesty to say, "Do I not deserve it? Will I not take it?" and stuff. Which was again really cool, only to be later punctuated by Raskin going, "Well, I'm just a gate sergeant. I'm not supposed to be thinking about this stuff. I'm just an idiot. These people know better than I do."
Smart enough. Yeah, but then he has accepted it, right? Like somebody else has this power over me, and that's fine. I don't have the resources to change it, so stop it.
See, and for as much as I don't understand it, the analogy with the rose for Hishtula is really interesting. Like the imagery is very beautiful.
I think it follows the Enestia wedding dress scene, which is red, vermilion, or scarlet red or something. And she's thinking about this, starts thinking about a rose. So I don't know. That's the way I saw that. Maybe because she has given away so much of herself to all these lovers, and she's like, I don't know. The way Hish is at least willingly gets hurt each time. Right, you can disagree, but that's the way she is, and probably she's given away so much of herself to all these various lovers, and there's nothing left behind, and there's just a withered rose, and no idea of a marriage or anything for her.
This is going to be Chalice 2.0.
What? Sorry, what?
This is going to be Chalice 2.0.
Chalice? No, I was thinking Scylla actually, because of all the self.
Could be.
Loathing himself.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Nobody loves me, everyone hates me.
We've not even gotten the Sandalath yet, god damn.
Oh, I'm so happy I'm not doing that. But she deserves pity, and I don't know, it's so hard, it's really hard. Right.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. So that was about Hish. Anything more you wanted to add?
Oh god, there is. Hang on, let me find it because I highlighted the summary and then I didn't bring it up during the summary because I'm dumb. Hang on.
Go on.
There is a quote about how the Thais were hunters, and hang on. Hello.
We can't leave empty air like this.
Sorry. So, essentially, Calvin and Sparrow have this conversation about how the Thais were hunters once, but no more. And then Calvin says, "Then let us hope that the Thais do not turn to the final prey left to them." And what manner of creature might that be? Why, each other, of course.
Which is already happening, isn't it?
Blunt, but so veiled at the same time.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously telling you don't kill each other because that'd be bad, but also it's already happening. You're already in deep shit. So I warn you indirectly, but no one's listening. Galan.
Oh God, stop bringing up Galan. Yeah.
Do you have any quotes you want to highlight?
I just did. Do you have more? I might have more. Obviously, I like the Ferenc line. Necessity and necessity is always a lie. And
What in the
okay,
name of all the gods above and below are you doing here? We're gonna get to that. That's Full of Light, chapter 1, about necessity, when Galan thinks on necessity. And then he spends like 3 paragraphs telling you, please, go find a place somewhere and just think about necessity.
Oh, the violence thing.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that.
Right. Okay, so one thing. When Feren, I keep thinking Fenner.
I have this problem too.
Yeah. So this lady, she's described as having a tilt to her eyes, which hints of blood from somewhere east. And you told me the answer. What is in the east? East of Blackwood?
It's not on the map. The only thing on the map, but east of so the only thing east of the Barrier Solitude, if it's of Blackwood, is nothing. So I'm going to assume, because of the Elnap people in Fall of Light, that she is Ghanese or Proto-Ghanese.
No, but everywhere the Thais are described as having like slightly tilted eyes or something, isn't it? Everywhere. I thought.
So they're all Proto-Ghanese.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. Right. Okay. Oh yeah, and we talked about in the prologue. The prelude. We were talking about people who have the entire world fit into neat boxes, and they make lists and all that. We have a very nice example in Sagander, who thinks to himself, that the ground is solid beneath him. There is no cracking ice. Only when he is insecure and unsure of himself, he can hear the cracking ice. All other times, it's like solid ground. So he knows the world. There are no mysteries, nothing that he can't find out. That's the type of conviction he has, isn't it? Oh, Sagander is being set up as such an asshole.
I have a lot to say about Sagander, and basically nothing. None of it is good. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's coming. It's coming. He's going to have his moment.
Eventually he has some very interesting dialogue about like the nature of being maimed and crippled, and it resonates fairly interestingly with the Book of the Fallen, but in a bad way. Like, unlike the Book of the Fallen, where it's like exalted. Here, he's just a manipulative dick. So.
Oh, and one more point I wanted to bring up, because we're talking about ages, and these guys are long lived and all that. And what is our problem with wrinkles? Even I don't know. It's coming soon. But Tulas Kakamandra Tulas, everyone hates him because this guy, poor guy, he fought all these wars and starved, and he has wrinkles now, and people just write him off. Same thing with Clovis. Clovis I was here.
Clovis I was here.
He's just called Clovis because. Yeah.
So I have a joke answer and an actual answer. So the joke answer is the Thais are all basically commercials for beauty products, so we cannot have wrinkles. They have excellent skincare.
And they have
the actual hair. Answer is one of Year Sanders' monologues in later, where he essentially says that when people look upon old soldiers, wrinkles because they starved and whatnot, they are reminded of like their sense of duty and whatnot, and that is not a good feeling, and so they resent them. So, if you discount the fact that he's like Loric's grandpa, he's a very cool guy.
There's nothing wrong with Lorik. Come on. Lorik.
I didn't say anything bad about Lorik. Nif did. I'm just saying.
But you're repeating it.
Okay, look, Lorik is a bit of a virtue signaling dipshit as well. He's a holier than thou.
You know what? I was the one who brought up that he's virtue signaling. I am the one who's spreading that, but even I think there is nothing so obnoxious about Lorik that you would point him and say that Urisander is a bad guy because he's Lorik's
I wouldn't say that. I don't know why Nif says that. I wouldn't say that, but
Yeah. Right? So we've had some interesting characters. We've had minor plot points set up. We just basically had
Minor.
character introductions.
Yeah.
Hardly, nothing really happened. Everyone is just getting ready to do stuff. So, do you want to close up?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So, this has been Smiley's podcast on Forge of Darkness, Chapter 1 and 2. Full spoilers. We hope you join us next week. Ideally. Now, we should note here, there is no dedicated schedule. Ideally, we'll stick to weekly, but if we don't, you'll be updated on our Twitter. We'll let you know. So, in any case, we hope you stuck around until now. If you haven't checked out our other episode for whatever reason, what are you doing here? Please go watch the summary. Thank you. And we hope to see you next week.
Being perfectly honest, I wouldn't watch the summaries either if I read the book.
I probably wouldn't either, but we need the exposure.
Hypocrite. All right, yeah. So thank you so much for listening. Thanks, Lee. Thanks for taking the time. Good night.
Good night.